Welcome to Yoga Biz Studio, a bi-weekly broadcast of 10 to 30 minutes in length, hosted by me, Carla Wilson, owner of Wilson Media Services, and also by my colleague,
Keeley Mitchell, the owner of Z Living.
On each of our episodes, we share business, legal, and marketing insights for yoga studio owners and independent yoga teachers. We use Google Plus Hangouts on Air to produce our show, so you can watch via Google, YouTube, or at our website at yogabizstudio.com. If you are watching our show via a YouTube or our website, please click on the little yellow graphic at the bottom of the video player. This will allow you to access our event page to ask questions or to comment on today's show. Today's topic is, should we license and regulate the yoga industry? We'll learn that some states are starting to regulate yoga studios because they consider yoga studio a vocational school. We'll also learn that there is a discussion to have a national yoga certification test. So, Keeley, where do we start this debate? Where do we start this conversation?
Yes, after some lighthearted but still very important topics, Carla, you and I are about to dive into a controversial topic that it's been debated. I guess, oh my gosh, it's more going on a decade almost, that from what I've seen, that's been kind of debated within the yoga community. But as always, you know, you and I intend to discuss and not try and sway our viewers, you know, either direction, but to just present the facts along with the pros and the cons. So hopefully our viewers feel that we stay to that in this discussion. I don't even feel in some yogi circles the topic of national or state regulation of yoga, it's kind of considered like taboo. The ones I've had with people, it's gotten kind of heated, one side or the other. So I know there's clearly a line drawn when people have this topic. But I think we're brave and that we can continue and move forward with it. To our viewers, I'm sure many of you have heard about this debate. Should the yoga industry be regulated? And should yoga instructors be licensed at the national or state level like other health professionals, such as massage therapists and acupuncturists? And of course, as we debate this topic, please feel free to chime in. You know, if you're watching this live, you know, Carla watches the Q&A, so if you guys have questions or comments, we'll love to hear from you. Or if you're going to watch this like after we've aired live, please feel free to still put in your comments or questions and keep the debate going. So it's always nice to hear from the community.
Absolutely, Keeley, you're exactly right about that. So if you were not able to watch our show live, as Keeley said, if you're watching this after the fact when it's convenient for you, we are still taking part in this conversation. Feel free to enter your question or comment in the Q&A panel that's just below the video player. Keeley, I do agree that it's important that we as Yoga Biz Studio not hold just one opinion, but we want to offer this information to our viewers in an effort to keep them educated. Our yoga studio owners and independent yoga teachers are business owners, and a national conversation and debate is happening that could affect the state of your yoga business. So it's important for us to keep this conversation going. So how about I start with a question? And I'll just play devil's advocate for a moment. I took teacher training at a yoga school that was Yoga Alliance approved. Does that mean I'm licensed?
Good question, Carla. No, it actually doesn't. This is a common mistake made by many within and outside the yoga community. I think it results from the word certified and licensed being used interchangeably. Yoga Alliance registers yoga studios and yoga instructors that meet their requirements. Yoga Alliance is the closest thing that the yoga community has in the United States as a self-regulating body. So when studios and instructors proclaim to the world that they are registered with Yoga Alliance, they are letting the public know that they have met a minimum standard of competency. However, the licensing and the regulation that you and I are referring to in this discussion concerns licensing and regulation through a government body. For example, as an attorney, I have to be licensed in Arizona to practice law there. Since I'm not allowed to practice law in Arizona. If I want to, I'll either need to sit for the Arizona bar or find a way to waive in. Doctors, nurses, chiropractors, massage therapists, and other health professionals have similar licensing requirements.
Got it, got it. Okay, so on this topic of regulation and licensing, it is getting a little bit clearer. Again, sometimes it's a vocabulary issue. So on the state and national levels of government, there's a movement to regulate yoga schools and teachers. I don't think in Pennsylvania where we live that has anything in place yet, at least to my knowledge. So what requirements are states putting in place for licensing? Like, is it a yearly license fee, or is there some kind of special rules that the studio should follow?
Right. Well, actually, the first thing is Pennsylvania doesn't have anything in place right now. So I guess we're one of the free states. Non-regulated, we're free. But, actually I'm not aware of any state yet that has actually started licensing yoga instructors as lawyers and doctors are. Okay. I think that is mainly because historically there's been a pushback from the yoga community from having that done. However, I suspect the tide is changing within the community, and that the change, the licensing and the regulation will start to be accepted within the next decade. Just out there speaking to different yogis, before I thought the majority was, completely against it, and it seems to be kind of 50-50 when I talk to people. So I think it's going in that direction. What is actually going on is that the yoga teacher training programs are being classified as vocational schools under state laws. And under this classifications, the teacher training programs need to be licensed. Requiring a teacher training program to be licensed now allows the government to impose some minimum requirements on the training of yoga instructors. Currently, those type of requirements are being enforced in at least 14 states. They're Arizona, Colorado, Delaware, Idaho, Kansas, Louisiana, Massachusetts, Minnesota, Oklahoma, Texas, Utah, Virginia, Washington, and Wisconsin. For those of you, I hope you weren't trying to scribble that down. It will be up on our page. So in case you are, teaching yoga in one of those states, or you're, and you want to have a teacher training program added to your studio, or you're planning to take one, now you know that there's at least 14 states out there that are being regulated by government entities. And it's interesting to note that while New York was the first to try and regulate yoga teacher training programs, the yoga community in New York State back so hard that in 2010, the then governor Patterson exempted yoga teacher training programs from regulation. So it will be kind of interesting to see as this trend happens and more states maybe start regulating training programs as vocational. It'll be interesting to see if yoga backpedals and kind of changes that. But they have a strong yoga community in New York, so I don't know. I would like to see how that will play out in the future.
Yeah, that will be interesting to see what happens there. As part of our research for today's show, we found a great blog post over at IDEA, Health and Fitness Association, and the post is titled Certification Update. It lists the current status for group fitness, personal training, yoga, and Pilates. So again, if you're watching the show on the Google page, this website page will be listed on the right-hand side. We have a couple of website links listed there for you. You can scroll down. We have a link to that post, and then another one we'll be discussing shortly. Otherwise, if you're not seeing those links right now, don't worry about it. As Keeley said, we'll have the links in our show notes at our website. But this post specifically mentions that some states require that the studio carry the license, not the instructor. Again, this varies state by state, so you'll need to verify what your state requires, if you're moving or if you're considering getting yoga teacher training. This same post shares a link to a blog from Patty Kearney, who is the author of a proposal that outlines content for a national exam for yoga teacher certification, in which she advocates for a consistent method of assessment that would be in conjunction with graduation from a Yoga Alliance registered school. So again, that link is also available to you. This is the same post that also lists a bunch of glossary terms to help us keep this vocabulary straight. I know we were saying that earlier: license, certification, regulation, it's all in there.
Great resources, Carla. That, you know, it's great that we can actually like grab this type of information and kind of collect it and put it out for people in one stop, so people don't have to go searching all over the internet for it. I do want to raise a few pros to the regulation. If the yoga community was regulated, it would bring a certain level of credibility to the community. And I'm speaking mostly from the perspective of it being a health industry. I have consistently read that one of the reasons that the insurance industry has not across the board allowed insurance dollars to be used for yoga therapy is because there's no central regulating body for the industry. There is nothing to separate, in their eyes, someone who was trained at a week-long yoga training course and then certified versus someone who attended Kerpalo for a 9-month intensive program. And I completely get it. You know, that those are some legitimate, I guess, reservations that the insurance industry may have. And it ties into their, I guess, a level of public safety that they're concerned about, because with the insurance industry, if they're going to let their dollars be backed up, they want to make sure that people were harmed, and there's some way that this could be regulated so they are able to discern who's a credible yoga studio and who wouldn't be. And the public safety ties in to my next pro. You know, regulating the industry provides a level of safety for the public. The public has a discernible way to tell who is good and who is not. In addition, the public has a regulating body to voice complaints to, which is really key. Most industries where they are licensed, there's a body that should someone be harmed when they go to a practitioner, they can complain to, and that practitioner can be brought before a body to kind of answer the complaints against it. And, you know, right now, unfortunately, I think the yoga community doesn't have something like that. Now, I'm not all pros. There is a big con that needs to be addressed as well, and it's, you know, no one wants to be regulated by the government. In addition, the question I generally hear from people who are against regulation is the government knowledgeable enough about the industry to even properly regulate it? And while, like I said, there's valid pros for regulation, you know, the con of government regulation and whether it's knowledgeable enough to actually regulate the industry are valid and need to be addressed when the discussion arises.
Right. You know, yeah, as we stated at the top of the show, this discussion is really just started. We just really wanted to kind of tip our toe into this discussion. We wanted to provide you with some background information regarding the blog post links that we have. But we would love to hear your thoughts about licensing and regulation within this industry. Please feel free to go to our website at yogabizstudio.com and post a comment to our blog. We would love for you to continue in this conversation with us.
Great. Join us for our next episode on February 19th, in which we'll discuss signs that it's time to expand your yoga or wellness business. And that is something that everyone would dream. That's a good problem to have.
Absolutely.
So if you are having a problem, please tune in. Or if you're not having a problem yet, definitely tune in so that when you have the problem, you're properly prepared to address it. We will be broadcasting that day at 4 p.m., so please note that. February 19th, we will be on at 4 p.m. If you please, as Carla said, if you want to comment on this episode or you have ideas for future episodes, please reach out to us with your questions and show ideas. You can email us at yogabizstudio@gmail.com. You can always go to our website, yogabizstudio.com, and of course you can find us under the name Yoga Biz Studio on social media at Facebook and Twitter.
Fantastic. Thanks, Keeley. And thank you to our viewers for joining us today. Our Yoga Biz Studio show is brought to you weekly by Keeley Mitchell of Z Living and by me, Carla Wilson of Wilson Media Services. Until our next show, everyone, namaste.
Namaste.